Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the 11th edition of Cinema Effect. I'm Zach, and I'm joined by Paul Thomas Anderson's number one fanboy, Liam. I had to decide which one I was going to use.
Hello.
And my fellow Hans Zimmer appreciator, Jaden.
How's it going?
I'm good. Did you guys notice how our views... I can't even remember if I talked to you about it this week, but how the views for the Westworld went back to normal? Did we talk about that earlier this week, or...?
Yeah, I think I talked about it with you. I'm not sure if Fitzy was there.
That might be right. Well, I don't know if you knew that, Fitzy, but there you go.
Yeah.
Our Westworld views, there's no longer a completely unrealistic number because, let's be honest, what 1,000 people are ever going to listen to this show, you know? Well, who cares about the views? This is Cinema Effect, the podcast where we review and talk about a different movie every single week. You can find the show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It posts every single Monday at 8 p.m. Australian time. How exciting is that? So please subscribe on those platforms. That'd be greatly appreciated. Remember to submit your questions, thoughts, reviews for next week's film. Our specific question of the week that we ask for you guys to submit in the YouTube comment section, we read out all our responses at the end of the show. We'll do something a bit different this week. I'm going to give out some homework, which is a satisfying thing to do. But we want to know what you think and what you thought of the new Tenet trailer that came out just yesterday when we're recording this, because we'll talk about it a bit in the news section today. But I know it's a pretty big trailer, pretty big thing happening, so I want to hear what you thought about it. So go and watch the trailer. It only takes, how long is the trailer, guys? Like 2 minutes, 50 seconds or something, is it? Something like that.
It's
not a lot of a time commitment. So
the homework is due by next Saturday.
Let's get into this week's movie. Today we're talking about Goodfellas, which is exciting. I was excited to watch this movie because, I don't know, it's just a classic of cinema, isn't it? I think, it's on a ton of people's top 10 lists and, favourite films of all time list and everything, and I totally get why now, having seen it myself. So that's super exciting.
Yeah, it's definitely got that iconic status.
For sure. Let's do the data dump and then we can talk about how iconic it is. The film opened in the US on the 21st, one day I'll read, of September 1990. The film was directed by Martin Scorsese. Naturally, it was written by Nicholas Pelgi, whatever, dude. I just can't with these names anymore. Who was the author of the book Wise Guys, which this film is based on. And Martin Scorsese helped as well write the film. The film stars Robert De Niro, Ray Liotta, Joe Pesci, and Lorraine Bracco. Awards-wise, Joe Pesci for this film won Best Actor in a Supporting Role at the 1991 Academy Awards. That's the highest accolade it received there that night. The film had a budget of $25 million, a box office of $47 million. Its genre, I mean, what else is there to say? It's just a gangster film, it's just gangster. That's all it is. The film goes for 2 hours and 26 minutes, which, I honestly didn't believe that. When I wrote that down, I'm like, did it really go for 2 hours and 26 minutes? Because I'll tell you, it just flew by. It flew by for me.
It's kind of, yeah.
Our little synopsis is, the story of Henry Hill and his life in the mob, covering his relationship with his wife Karen Hill and his mob partners Jimmy Conway and Tommy DeVito in the Italian-American crime syndicate. That's basically all you need to know about a bunch of mobsters doing mob shit, and it's a good time. So yeah, Fitzy, you've seen this movie before, but how'd you feel about it this time?
Yeah, I still thought it was great. It's still, as entertaining and energetic as hell. So, no, I thought it was, as good as I thought it was the last couple of times. What about you guys?
Sure. Energetic's a great way to put it.
I agree with energetic for the first half, but after that it kind of teeters off a bit. No, I really liked it, but it's far from flawless, and I do have a few problems with it, but I still thought it was a very good movie.
Cool. Oh, yeah, okay, interesting. I'm interested to hear what those problems are. I don't know if I could identify any major problems I have with the movie for sure, but I thought the movie was awesome. I think I'm in kind of a place where I've seen and been exposed to so many of these kind of mobster stories before. Obviously, having watched the entirety of The Sopranos, you get feels like, hundreds of hours of content of the same thing kind of there. So In that way, I feel like kind of the unique nature of the subject matter, of the setting, of the kind of character interactions is kind of lost on me a little bit, just because I've seen so much of these kind of, I guess, this kind of fiction, you know. But I think if I had seen this movie without seeing other mob-related stories, if I'd seen this movie when it came out, for example, I would have been blown away by this movie. Just its sense of humor, its characters, just kind of learning about it and being immersed in that world. No, I thought it was awesome. I really enjoyed the hell out of it.
You called it fiction, but it is a real story.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Which I did not know at all. I had no idea. When the film started and it said this movie is based on a true story, I was like, what? Really? I was shocked. I was like, Jesus. I had no idea. Did you know that, Jaden, beforehand? Because I certainly did.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool. I mean, I guess in a way, typically I find films that are based on a true story bother me more. Like I don't love movies when they're based on something that actually happened, real events, because immediately for me, then it kind of just restricts what's possible in the story, you know, obviously. But I don't know, that didn't bother me here, I guess is all I'm saying. I felt the narrative, it felt very, I don't even know what's the right word. Like it felt like the events are so crazy and wild and entertaining that I'm like, oh, I'm kind of surprised this is real, but hey, I mean, that makes it cool, I guess. What are some of the things? Let's start negative, okay? Because we're, of course, very pessimistic people. What are some things you didn't like about it, Jane? I want to start there because I'm interested.
It's quite broad, but like I don't know, I'd say halfway through the second act, I just feel like in terms of enjoyment and engagement and how interesting it was, it just completely fell flat. Like it plateaued, but it wasn't at a high level. It just kind of dipped and then just stayed at that level. I mean, there was some moments that occurred that kind of spiked up a bit, but it got really dull. Like, you know, towards the second half of the film for me.
Really?
Yeah.
And was that a pacing issue? Was it just you just didn't find the humor of the scenes was landing as much, or?
Yeah, I'm not too sure what it was, but I was just taken out of it. I wasn't enjoying, because really, like, nothing really shifts. I mean, because you keep the same, it keeps the same fast pace and it keeps the same, you know, everything remains the same. But there was just something about the second half that didn't land for me.
Okay. Let's see if we can get to the bottom of it. I thought the second half was awesome. I love how, you know, the film. I love the way the film begins, with us following this younger version of Henry Hill, the main character. And on a side, I had no idea that Ray Liotta played the main protagonist of this movie. I just knowing kind of vaguely what Goodfellas was, I assumed Robert De Niro was the main character of this movie. I mean, he's the main one on the poster and everything, but he's not. So that was cool. Ray Liotta plays the main character, and we follow him kind of as a young lad. And I thought all this stuff was really cool, kind of showing this idea. What's the word? Like, idealite? What am I trying to say?
Idealized.
Thank you. Picture of the mob life, and I guess the line, when I grew up, I always wanted to be a gangster. I knew I always wanted to be a gangster. I guess is that like a famous line? Because I feel like hearing it, I was like, oh, I feel like I've heard that before.
Yeah. I think it was like voted like 20th best line in, like, I don't know, a few polls. I can't remember what poll it was, but
yeah.
Yeah,
no, that was really cool. I just like how the movie, this character just, and this is another interesting thing about the ending, but generally speaking, you know, we're kind of showing the more positive side of this life of the mob and all that in the 50s. But then I really like how towards the end, and especially in the third act, how everything falls apart to just complete paranoia on everyone's part. And obviously everything goes to shit for everyone in the end, basically, except Henry Hill. I mean, even debatably, maybe him. But no, so I really like that kind of the story progression of, I mean, I guess it's pretty tropey, it's pretty standard, at least for me at this point, but seeing all these characters, you know, and their criminal activities, kind of, it all comes back to bite them in the end, you know, I guess.
Yeah. And the ending, or the second half for me, the fall kind of, in this kind of rise and fall story, even though everything's going to shit, it still goes out with a bang. It's still energetic for me. So
definitely, and I feel like we have a tendency to start at we get drawn to starting at the endings. I don't know why, but I don't mind it. I haven't got a problem with it. I guess I assume you're kind of talking about everything leading up to and then including that kind of the final, I guess, climactic sequence of the movie, Fitzy. That's like the day long thing that we follow him for a day, and we get the time codes of like 6 a.m., 8 a.m., whatever. That because that's really when everything comes to a head in the movie.
Yeah, but also like just even the kind of the courtroom scene, which could be very whatever in a different movie, is kind of still has that energy to it because of the slick narration and the quick like zoom ins from the camera, and Scorsese's use of like music, which is just like brilliant in this film. So yeah, it still maintains its energy, even though it's basically the opposite of what the first half is. It's basically the fall. So yeah,
absolutely. It maintains that style throughout. I'm glad you mentioned the zoom ins and things like that. I love those kind of stylistic choices in the way the camera's used. I think all that's great. Scorsese's known for all that kind of thing, but
I love how they have a fourth wall break in it, but it still feels fine because of the narration and the style of the film. It feels suitable, and it doesn't detract from the scene at all.
Yeah, I forget about that fourth wall break. Like every time I watch it, and it's like, oh shit, there's a fourth wall break. Just a common.
Yeah. I think for me that speaks to how good it is, because I had completely forgotten it was in there too. It's literally like essentially the last scene of the movie. He completely breaks the fourth wall and starts talking to the audience, and I'd completely forgotten about that. But it's awesome. So I agree 100%.
I think my problem with the film lays with the fact that I don't care about any of the characters. I think the film's too long for me to care about the characters, because like about an hour and a half in, I just stopped giving a shit about what happens to them. I mean, like, I feel like the movie is too long. It's way too long. I mean, you could easily shave 20 minutes off. But like, I just couldn't get, like, I don't know what it was, but like when the character, I think, sorry, hold on, I'm not phrasing this correctly. I'm not sure. Okay, sorry. Let me start with the question then. How did you guys feel with the characters? Were you attached to them? Were you invested in them? Did you care about them?
Well, I think it's fair enough if you weren't invested in the characters, because they're all scumbags, and they're all in the freaking mob and doing shit, killing people and shit. So, I mean, I think, I wouldn't say I was like rooting for the characters or whatever, but at the same time, I was sort of always curious where it was going to go, even if because at the end, Ray Liotta, what's his name? Sorry, Henry, like his fall doesn't necessarily have like an emotional impact, I guess. Like, you're not invested in that way, but I don't know. You kind of, I guess you're invested in him trying to find his identity in a way. But I can see why you wouldn't be invested in a purely emotional level. That's fair enough.
You see, and that's why I'm not sure if I should applaud the movie on that fact or whether it's a fault on the movie's behalf, because I think it's common in these insider crime stories. They're painted like these criminals are painted in such a favorable light that you can't help rooting for them. I think that happens with Animal Kingdom. Like, I think that's that's the first example that always comes to my head, because when the fall comes in Animal Kingdom, I do feel bad for the characters, even though they're terrible people, they're cop killers, and so that's why I'm not sure if the fact that I can't get into these characters is a good thing on the movie's behalf or if it's a negative. I think it's kind of both, because it's a negative because it removes my interest from the film, but it's positive because, you know, you're not rooting for these, you know, bad people. And that's kind of where, you know, I think that because of that kind of, you know, dual state of mind, it kind of just took me out of it.
I didn't care for the characters in terms of like, I didn't necessarily hope they got away with anything or necessarily, but I was invested in their story. I was invested in wanting to see what happened to them, you know, and I think those are two different things.
Yeah, same, I think.
I mean, like, because sure, like, I mean, they're obviously, you know, ethically pretty shitty people. I think that's pretty hard to deny. But
yeah,
I mean, they're still super likable in different ways.
How did you feel then when Joe Pesci's character died, and like, you know, Jimmy was, you know, just howling? How did that make you feel? Because that's kind of,
they got a reaction from me.
Because you see, when a similar thing happens in Animal Kingdom, that got a reaction from me. But in this film, I just couldn't give two shits.
No, I definitely gave a shit in that moment. I definitely did personally, yeah. I mean, Joe Pesci's just phenomenal in the movie. Like, let's just say that, because I loved everything about Tommy and about his performance. But it just shocked me, honestly, and I thought it was really cool because we get this. I like the motivations of why he was killed and everything, and you know, he's basically, he's a total asshole the entire movie. But he obviously has this charm to him at the same time, and we get this build up of, he's about to be made, about to take part in that ceremony, which is cool. And I was thinking to myself, I'm surprised he wasn't already made. I figured that, you know, a man of his age in the mob would already be made anyway, but it goes to show what I know. So I'm like, good for him, he's getting made. Okay, great. And then he gets popped. And I was like, oh shit, no, I really like that personally.
Well, I like De Niro's, what's his character's name?
Jimmy.
Yeah, Jimmy's, his reaction in that scene, like, you don't really see him lose himself in that way. It was kind of emotional for the first time, but yeah.
Yeah, no, and I liked everything with that, like, he was excited, you know, for one of them to be able to kind of get into the maid crew, you know, because they explain. I like, I guess, a bit of a side. I love all the narration in the movie. I think it's really well done, and a lot of it is apparently like exact quotes from Henry Hill. And no, I really liked the way it was done, kind of just subtly explaining shit, and because I find it all super interesting, and how both Jimmy and Henry would be excluded from ever being made. So Joe Pesci was being made, and then De Niro was pissed off at that. So yeah, but what's up with Robert De Niro playing Irish dudes in Scorsese movies? You know?
Yeah. Well, I guess they're all American, Zach, but yeah.
Aside from The Irishman, does he play an Irish in any other Scorsese film?
No, probably not.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen that many, so I can't really comment.
Well, I gave out some Joe Pesci appreciation, so I'll give you a bit of trivia on that one. According to Henry Hill, whose life was the basis of the book and the film, Joe Pesci's portrayal of Tommy DeSimone, whatever, their last names are changed in the movie, which is interesting, but was 90 to 99% accurate, with one notable exception: the real Tommy was massively built. I just love thinking that this Joe Pesci character was like actually a real person, pretty much, according to Henry Hill. You didn't get a kick out of Joe Pesci's performance, Jane?
I thought it was fine. I mean, that's underselling it. I thought it was good. Sorry, but it's just that I didn't think it was, you know, amazing. Like, I like the character at the start, but you know, as I said, I got uninterested in him, and ultimately his fall had no impact. But I don't know. I think when they kind of showed that, you know, as they showed, like, you know, his kind of deteriorating state of where he kills that kid just for, you know, because they're working him up a bit, you know. I think, like, that's kind of like when I started losing interest in him. I was like, yeah, I mean, you're a bit of a psychopath, mate. You can go. Because I think because like that's what that's what the charm of, like, you know, the mob or gangsters are. You know, it's the fact that there's order, you know, and there's rules, there's respect. You know, especially when you go back to, like, you know, you look at the 30s and the 50s type of, you know, those gangster styles. So, like, when you see this character that kind of contradicts that, and he's just, you know, loose cannon, you know, I don't really care about him.
I guess so. I think because it is such a core character trait to him, and that is kind of his character, though, is that he is the opposite to everyone around him, because ultimately his temper is what kills him. When he beat the shit out of and hide this dude's body. I can't remember his name. That other mobster had just gotten out of prison, and that's ultimately what gets Joe Pesci killed in the long run. That's kind of why I liked it, I guess.
Yeah.
Joe Pesci plays a big part, I think, in another aspect of the movie I really love, and that's kind of just the dialogue and the extended kind of scenes and interactions between the characters. There is just a handful of, to me, super memorable scenes, and Joe Pesci's in a lot of them. Not in all of them, but where you I just love the way these dudes talk, and their kind of discussion and their humour and their banter and all this. I mean, what some of the standouts are, I really like when the restaurant owner's talking to Paulie about trying to get in the business, and he's going on a rant about Joe Pesci. I thought that was really cool, and there was some improv in there I read as well. So, and you can kind of feel that. I just love the kind of off the cuff kind of feel that the actors bring with the dialogue, because Scorsese was trying to really insert that into the movie, and I think he succeeded definitely with that. But another scene I love is the "How am I" funny scene, which goes on for like 2 minutes, about Joe Pesci questioning Ray Liotta about what makes him funny, and I just love this whole scene. And trivia associated to it. That scene is based on something that actually happened to Joe Pesci while working in a restaurant. A young Pesci apparently told the mobster that he was funny, a compliment that was meant with a less than enthusiastic response. Pesci replayed the antidote to Martin Scorsese, who decided to include it in the film. Scorsese didn't include the scene in the shooting script so that Pesci and Ray Liotta's interactions would elicit genuine surprises from the supporting cast. I like that scene. Did you guys have kind of standout kind of those kind of interactions and scenes like I did? Or
I really liked when they go to prison and he's explaining, their dinner routine.
That's a good one, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's later in the film, and that's like, I know I said that's the part I don't like, but I still think that was a good scene. The film, like the fact that, I mean, ultimately, I think you could have cut it and it wouldn't have been impacted too much, but it is funny to see the film take 3 or so minutes, and just have Henry Hill just say how just tell them about how they prepared their dinner. I mean, with the razors and cooking the steaks and whatever, and like it was it was an enjoyable scene.
For sure, yeah. I liked all the stuff in prison as well, and just seeing how they basically, they're just chilling out in prison. Nothing too worrying happening to them in there, which I thought was a really cool kind of look into that. What about you, Fitzy?
Yeah, I can't think of a specific scene with I mean, there are so many great scenes with sharp dialogue and such, but I love some of the scenes of just some of the subtle like there's a scene after they do the heist stuff in the bar, and it's like this slow zoom in on Jimmy, and he kind of has this like change of mind or kind of realization that you kind of can subtly see in De Niro's performance. I think De Niro is like really great in this, and some of the scenes together, you can see De Niro kind of doing stuff that
Are you talking about in the fallout of when they do that one job and everyone starts buying shit and De Niro's pissed off at them? Is that kind of around where you're talking about, or am I? Where are you talking about?
Yeah, I think they just got all the French money or whatever from the from the heist, and there's this slow pan-in shot of De Niro, and he's kind of looking over at someone across the bar. I think it might be the character who's like bugging him for money, and you can see in his face, it's really subtle, but you can see like in his face that that's where he decides to start killing everyone, I think. So it's like, yeah, I mean, it may seem like De Niro just being another, De Niro character in this film, but his performance is actually really great, and I think some of the best scenes have him in it for that reason.
Definitely. I mean, I think with his introduction, I got a different vibe from him immediately than I've personally, seen him in other movies, where I like how he's introduced to just handing out all the cash to everyone, as a young bloke, and then you're right, kind of seeing that transition. He's kind of pissed off at everyone. I love all the scenes of him just getting so triggered at everyone buying shit, because if I were in his position, that would annoy the shit out of me too. I'd be wanting to kill these people too, dude. Like, how simple is it? Okay, just don't buy shit. It's all you have to do, and you can get away with it. But yeah, no, I thought all that stuff was really cool, and that again plays into the paranoia building for Liotta and De Niro towards the end of the movie as well.
I love the cut that occurs in that scene where, he finishes telling off those two people about buying shit, and he gives, a stack to Henry, and then, it cuts to him walking in the door and is like, yeah, I bought the most expensive Christmas tree that you can find.
Yeah.
And he's, dishing out these presents. He gives his wife a gold bar or whatever.
That's right.
And, that was that, I did like the humor in the film.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Yeah, and that's a great example of that, but then also seeing how Liotta kind of gets super into the drugs and everything as well, and he's got his mistresses and shit like that. Like, yeah, all of that playing into the downfall and going against exactly what De Niro said with the tree thing, like you said, but then also Paulie told him to stay the hell away from drugs. If you see or hear anything about the other guys doing drugs, you tell me. And then he immediately goes and does drugs too. So that kind of same thing there. I thought that was really cool, because it bothered me. But it gave me the effect I think it was meant to have. It was just pissing me off. What are you doing, bro? Just listen to old mate Paulie, he's trying to help you out. You just got out of prison. He's trying to get you back on the street. You're there, and then you there go back crying to him like a pussy, like.
Yeah, but Henry was always the one that Henry always looked up to Jimmy more than Paul. So because Jimmy was doing it, Henry did it too.
Sure. Well, Jimmy never did drugs though. Didn't he?
He didn't do drugs, but I think Paul was saying. I think he wasn't saying you stay away from drugs, as in don't take them. Well, obviously that was part of it, but he was saying stay away from the drug trade as well. Was he not?
Yeah, absolutely. And
yeah.
No.
But because Jimmy was, Jimmy was all for the drug trade because it could rake him in tons of money. That's why Hill followed it.
Sure, but then you're absolutely right. And then Jimmy also tells Henry to get off actually doing drugs as well. So he kind of he disobeys them both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's trying to serve either one. He's just kind of serving his own needs.
Speaking about serving, it's interesting because I read that with real gangsters that saw the film, they they were around that kind of time, and that was part of that group. They were saying that Henry Hill was never a big player like how the movie portrays him. They said that he was just hanging on. So that's also interesting as well. I wonder whose account they're going to take, because maybe they're just saying that to make themselves look better, or maybe
I mean, I'd probably believe them, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't think it takes anything away from this movie, but that is interesting, yeah. Along the lines that you mentioned with real mobsters and their input and everything in the film, Jaden, according to Nicholas Pileggi, who wrote the book, some mobsters were hired as extras to lend authenticity to the scenes. And I think you can definitely feel that. And the mobsters gave Warner Brothers fake social security numbers, and no one knows how they received their paychecks. It's a bit of a fun one. Because
doesn't Scorsese do that for a few of his films, or is that just something?
I think so.
Because I feel like I've heard that fact about other ones that
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I mean, I feel like these mobsters, they wouldn't be doing this if they couldn't get paid. I wouldn't have thought. I mean, they probably think it's fun, but at the same time, they want to get paid. So how the hell do they? How do they get paid?
Cash in hand, just give them $1,000 at the start of the day and then just piss off.
I guess so. Did producers and shit organise that and not tell anyone, and that's why no one knows?
I don't know, probably.
Just speculating on the criminal activities of the set.
Zach, I don't think this is something you want to look too deeply into.
I think you're absolutely right. I might get whacked, man. I just love all the I love everything about kind of. I was about to say I love everything about this life. that they portray. Yeah, man, it's awesome. But no, I like always getting glimpses into this world, this criminal underworld, in the late 1900s especially, and I just love kind of the vocabulary and the way these guys talk to each other, and you're breaking my balls and all, like every 5 seconds, and that kind of vocab shit. I think it's really funny. I get a kick out of it every time.
Speaking about like the way they talk to each other, like it kind of goes back to the improv thing as well. But like, I read that the script originally had like, I don't know, like 70 F words or something like that in there, but then by the end of filming, it had like 320 because like all just like they kept on improvising, and it became like the most like vulgar film of all time when it was released.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think The Wolf of Wall Street then bet that record. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think in a way that's another aspect of the film where I think I do struggle to appreciate it fully, where if you saw this when it came out, like I'm sure this blew a lot of people away for that reason, specifically for the subject matter, for how vulgar it is in different ways. But for me, having, obviously seen Wolf of Wall Street, but not just that, just being exposed to so much modern cinema, and I'm just like, oh, okay, like this film didn't give me anything, that I haven't seen before. So I think that lessens its impact, definitely.
Mm. But like the way that swearing is used in this film, it's, although it's used, a lot, like I think it's like, there's 2 or swear words every minute or something like that on average. It doesn't feel excessive because it kind of just flows with the script and the way that they all do speak. Whereas, if you watch a film like, End of Watch, which also is like, amongst like the highest, which has like the highest like, swear word count as well. That just feels like, like they just use it like, they just string them together and just shove it in there, and it doesn't feel as natural. So, I think like the way they do use, their profanity does have to be applauded as well.
Yeah, it adds to the atmosphere that Scorsese is trying to create, and he just nails, in my opinion, for sure. I mean, I commented earlier about how I thought the movie flew by. I thought the runtime just, I was just having a blast. But you mentioned, Jaden, how you thought it was kind of slow and too long. So, yeah, I guess you disagree. You do wish some of the movie was cut?
Yeah, just a few minutes here and there. I mean, I think you can, I think as an audience, you'll be able to look at most films and say, that could have been cut. Especially, if it exceeds a runtime of like 2 hours, let's say. I mean, if you're looking at a 90-minute film, a lot of it there is fine. But when, you've got such a significant, time, there's always going to feel something that could have, been, there's always going to be, sorry. I just completely stuffed up there. There's always going to be, hold on. It's always going to feel like something can be cut. I mean, I think it quite often happens with Tarantino's films as well. His films are really long, and you can just look at them and say, that can go, that can go, that can go. And I feel like it's a similar thing with Scorsese's films. Because, like, while everything on screen is great, there's still some things that I'm like, yeah, not entirely necessary.
I see what you're saying if you're talking in the sense of necessary in terms of building the story and the the plot and the characters and everything in the movie. There's definitely, scenes that don't quote unquote need to be there. But I think anything that, as long as the movie, keeps up its pace and continues to entertain me throughout, I don't have a problem with, extra scenes or whatever that aren't necessarily necessary. But yeah, obviously, I guess you just didn't enjoy them as much as I did.
Yeah.
Now, Fitzy, I think it's time we get to our obligatory Sopranos cameo section of this episode, because holy shit, everyone in the Sopranos is in this movie.
I think his name is Tony Sirico. Paulie Walnuts.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, so he was the first one. You're right. So Paulie in the Sopranos, he was there. I think mostly early on from memory. He was hanging around. He had a few lines. We got, obviously, Lorraine Bracco. Dude, it took me probably 20 minutes for her in the movie for me to realise who she was. I was like, holy shit. Because this being 10 years before Sopranos, she plays Henry's wife in the movie, and I was like, oh, I've never seen this person in my life. And then, 20 minutes later, I'm like, holy shit, that's like the psychiatrist from freaking Sopranos. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then we get I mean, she's obviously the most major one. She's actually a main character in the movie. We get
Phil
the dude.
Phil Leotardo's the actor.
That's right. That's right. You beat me to it. Yeah, Phil Leotardo. He was the dude that
Shinebox.
Yes. They killed him. He's the guy that they buried, right?
Yeah.
He looked nothing like he did in The Sopranos for me. I think because I think I knew he was in the movie beforehand, so I guessed that must be him. But he looked nothing like he did in The Sopranos to me.
Really?
Whereas obviously some of the others do.
He looked pretty similar to me.
Really? Wow. I mean, he had like different coloured hair and he had like facial hair and shit. And of course, we had Michael Imperioli, who plays Christopher in The Sopranos. He's the guy that got completely gunned down by Joe Pesci.
Is he like Tony's nephew or whatever it is?
Yeah. He got totally gunned down by Joe Pesci.
He was like my favourite character, even though I've only seen one season.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah. And he looked a fair bit younger too, but obviously. But yeah, I think we covered them all. That was good.
Has Scorsese ever directed an episode of Sopranos or not? Did you just not get involved in that? No.
Nah.
That would have been a good crossover.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I was personally just sitting down watching this movie, having a great time, just seeing who was going to pop up next. You know, I think we covered the acting pretty good for some of the other guys. But did you guys like Ray Liotta in the movie? Or so I thought he was cool.
I think it was mostly fine, but in that scene where in the how am I funny guy scene, was his laughing not like so over exaggerated? I mean, because like it was just
definitely,
yeah, but like and it like like sometimes there's an over exaggeration is fine, and but like this seemed like just like way too over the top where he he has his arms up, he throws his head back, his mouth's all wide open, he's howling at everything he says. I mean, but that was like my only problem with his acting. Otherwise, it was fine. But because like that scene just felt so over exaggerated compared to the rest.
I kind of read that as he was doing it on purpose, just trying to impress Joe Pesci, like just trying to suck up to him.
But they'd been friends for a long time. Like that's. I don't think he was trying to suck up to him.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. But I still feel like in that environment though, like this. I'm sure in these groups of people, these mobsters, there's still a lot of peer pressure. I'm sure he just kind of feels obliged to just carry on about whatever he's, Joe Pesci thinks he's hilarious.
Right.
It worked for me, personally. You're not going to comment on Ray Liotta's laughing, Fitzy?
It's nice.
It's nice. It's an 8 out of 10 laugh.
Yeah. I do think the movie is a little... I mean, not little. It is very tropey, rise and fall type of movie, and you can see this movie in a lot of different other. You can see this trope in a lot of different other gangster movies and the like Scarface and other Scorsese films, The Irishman, Casino, and all that. So it's not the most original film in that way, but you also have to ask, like, how much did Goodfellas actually, popularize and, like, influence this trope? Because,
Yeah, exactly.
But still, in terms of my, like, enjoyment from it, it's still, like, you have a kind of bad character and you see him go through this identity and then lose it all because he's too involved in all the, in all the craziness, and it's kind of like you've seen this in other films and kind of done better in other films, so that is a kind of big weakness of the film for me.
I don't see it as a weakness personally. I think you're absolutely right. I agree with you 100%, but there's not a lot of necessarily original takes on stories that you can do, and I'm not trying to say that there's no such thing as being creative in filmmaking, but I don't know. It doesn't telling a story that is tropey or that has been done before doesn't bother me if the story's still constantly engaging and executed perfectly, and I think that's what this movie is, honestly, to me. Like, sure, I've definitely seen stories like this before, but I was engaged the whole time. I was entertained the whole time, and I thought it was super well done, so it doesn't bother me.
The thing is, it's a true story as well, so, I mean, if it hits all the beats, that's because it actually did hit all the beats in real life. So, I mean,
Yeah, but, like, I know you guys haven't seen Casino, but, like, from Casino, for example, it's kind of like, I feel like Scorsese does the same, completely compelling rise and fall story, but it's just slightly better character work and music and stuff,
right.
and you can get the same kind of thing but with better elements in other Scorsese films. And I mean, I feel like this is the most kind of narratively concise and in terms of just the rise and fall kind of idea, it's kind of the best executed in that way. But yeah, I still think I can look for things in other Scorsese and other gangster films that I kind of have the same things but have extra things to them.
I saw someone say that this film is just the Wolf of Wall Street with gangsters, and I mean it pretty much is. Like, it feels the exact same, just with a few details swapped out, for stockbrokers and what that is, but follows the exact same story pretty much.
Yeah, and I mean, you can get if you like the story of Wolf of Wall Street better, there's no reason to watch Goodfellas over Wolf of Wall Street, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like you can get the same sharpness, same kind of, Scorsese iconic narration and stuff, and the incredible music and editing and all that, but kind of extra from other movies like Wolf of Wall Street.
With comparing these two films, how does Goodfellas rank amongst other Scorsese films for you then?
Probably like somewhere in the middle, I guess, or like on the low end in terms of the bad character kind of arc that Scorsese has in some of his movies. Just because, like other reasons I mentioned, I feel like his other works are just kind of more mature and there's better stuff in there. But
this ranks pretty high for me. I think it's better than Wolf of Wall Street. I think it's better than Irishman. Irishman is another one, Fitzy, that you're talking about. It's pretty similar. Yeah, honestly, it's probably my favourite Scorsese movie I've seen. Now that I think about it, I don't know. I think I've seen 5 from memory, I think. I think what you're talking about, Fitzy, with Scorsese definitely having this through line style in these narratives that he chooses to take on, I think it kind of makes me appreciate Silence as a movie because of how different it is. Not like obviously completely different in setting, obviously, but no, that's all I'm saying is that that's quite a different movie for him. So I appreciate that. I guess that's all I mean.
Mm.
So yeah, no, I think this is a top Scorsese movie for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's still great for me, but yeah, I think you can kind of, I don't know, I guess it's just a personal thing, but I feel like you can get extra from his other stuff.
Yeah, I think Shutter Island is still my favourite work of his because once again it is that bit different, but still maintains all the Scorsese charm, which is chucks in a different story and something that actually is unpredictable and actually that does mess with your head a bit. But I think I'm with Fissy where it kind of ranks among the lower ones. Like it's still very good, but it kind of it kind of feels a bit lower on the ranking on Scorsese.
So do you guys like Wolf of Wall Street more than this?
Yeah, probably not by much, but I'd say so.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, I don't personally, but yeah, I mean they're pretty bloody close, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't think like both of them aren't films that I'd be chomping at the chain to watch again because I think part of that's due to their length. But like if I was to watch one again, it would be Wolf of Wall Street.
Right. So yeah, I don't know when the hell, but I think this movie for me has a lot of rewatch potential.
Yeah, it does.
Oh yeah, because you obviously having watched it before, Fitzy, I guess you can speak more to that. But yeah, no, the vibe I got, having finished it, I was like, I don't know when I'll see. I personally, I'd rather rewatch this than Wolf of Wall Street, for sure. And I think I definitely would get a lot out of rewatches for this over time.
I just when I rewatch it, because I think I've seen it maybe a couple times now, maybe 3 or 4 or something. I feel like I always think, oh yeah, that was great, but I don't get anything extra out of it. Like,
oh, okay.
There are new details and stuff that I find, but it's all the same kind of, what you get on the first viewing is, I think, what you get on, your second and your third and your fourth. Like, you're not going to find any hidden not going to find any hidden meanings or a lot of different
Oh, no,
details
definitely
that are like, you know, add to your experience that much. Whereas I feel like, I don't know, there are like things to think about and other things that can really add to other Scorsese films that are similar.
So, like, what about The Departed versus Goodfellas? Well, how would
Holy
that go?
shit, I completely took The Departed out of my head when I was thinking about Scorsese movies. No, Departed's number one for me, 100%.
Yeah.
Didn't even think of that. Yeah. God, how did I forget? Jesus.
Because I think The Departed is kind of, it offers what Fitzy's saying this film was missing, and like, because there are so many details in The Departed about foreshadowing and, you know, how this interacts with that you miss on the first time around, and, you know, you
Right.
can get from your second viewing.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Oh, when I was talking about this movie's rewatchability, I agree 100%. I don't see myself, you know, getting hidden meanings out of it necessarily, but I just think, you know, going in, I had no idea what this movie was about other than just it's a gangster movie with Robert De Niro. Now, me having an understanding of the characters and what this movie is, I think rewatching it for me, I would be able to find potentially more joy in it, you know? I'm not sure, but that's kind of the feeling I get, possibly. In a roundabout way, I thought we were going to do this early, but we got away from it. That's fine. Well, let's actually talk about the ending, because I love Scorsese endings to movies. I don't know if I've seen a Scorsese ending that's disappointed me, and this one did not disappoint me either, because it genuinely surprised me how we see Henry rat on his mates, on Paulie and Jimmy, and he goes into witness protection. So I was like, already, I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of an interesting ending. That's cool. But then I love the final kind of moments of him living in this suburban neighborhood that's really green and bright, and, you know, I think to most of us would look quite appealing. And he's talking about how much it's trash, and he's not a fan of it, and he kind of looks out his door and kind of envisions his former life, and he's like, yeah, that's kind of how he misses it and how he really appreciated that lifestyle, even still after getting out of it. I thought that was a really cool ending, because I feel like what we've been talking about with it following this traditional narrative of the fall of these criminals, I think it did kind of leave me on a different note, where it wasn't like, oh, the guy learned from his mistakes, now he's all sad and lonely, now he's depressed. He actually like looks back on his life with fondness and wishes he could go back there, you know? I think that's cool.
I think I read that. So when the film released, he made his identity public, because, you know, he was put into witness protection, but like, you know, like with the release of the film, I don't know what compelled him, you know, maybe he thought, you know, I'll get a good deal out of this. You know, he revealed who he was. So, you know, he was kicked out of the witness protection program for that. But then it was, I'm not sure if I read, but did he get arrested for drug conspiracy as well later on? Or is that something you know?
Don't know.
Because I think I saw that as well. So, I mean, like, you know, that kind of, you know, however many years after the film that occurred, if it did occur, let me quickly find. But, you know, that kind of, you know, it kind of enhances the film in that, you know, he still did want that life.
Yeah, exactly. Are you guys with me? I think that's a cool ending to this movie, honestly, because being vague, The Irishman, you know, Fitzy obviously has an ending that isn't like this. That is more kind of what you'd think, I guess, this movie would go, where it would go. I was just surprised by the ending. I thought it was different, you know. Gave me something I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. Well, I guess this goes back to what I was saying earlier, but like, I don't know, I think The Irishman kind of builds on this ending, because it kind of adds it adds that religious element to it. But, and it kind of, you know, makes it more impactful. Like, kind of going back to what Jaden was saying earlier, you know, there's a lack of emotional connection in this film to the characters, even though you're still invested in their stories. But I feel like with other Scorsese, you know, the fall, it kind of is more impactful in his other works, because you know, you are more invested in the characters, because they're not just, I don't know, they seem more sympathetic in other films, I guess. Like, he's going full, like, he's hardly trying to make his character sympathetic at all in this. It's just trying to tell it how it is, pretty much. Except for, you know, at the start, where you got Henry Hale being beaten by his dad. That, you know, if you didn't have that, maybe if you didn't have his like bad childhood, you might have not been as invested. But I feel like other foals, I guess, in other Scorsese kind of do this, but do it in a different, have a twist to it. Like in Wolf of Wall Street, for example, you've kind of got, oh well, he lost all this stuff, but I mean, he didn't really, because capitalist society, kind of encourages all this, and he's going to get away with it because, of course, he is, because that's how it happened in real life, and that's how it is. But and then in Irishman, you've obviously got the same kind of thing, but way kind of, heavier. But the ending is still great though. But yeah.
Sorry, just to tie up what I was saying earlier. He wasn't reincarcerated. That must have been someone else.
Okay. I don't know how much sympathy Scorsese was attempting to get out of the audience for Henry, because especially with the ending in mind, like, the fact that he got out safely, he kind of, he's in this neighborhood, he's in witness protection, good for him. And the fact that he still kind of envisions and dreams about going back to this, his kind of murderous lifestyle, an unethical lifestyle. I don't know if that's really something that we should, and Scorsese's trying to get us to sympathise with, especially when I kind of got something different out of it, because you said when his father beat him, and there's a bit of sympathy there. I disagree. I think I didn't really see anything wrong with his childhood, to be honest. I mean, obviously, I'm not condoning anyone beat their child, obviously, but at the same time, like, he's the one that's, ditching school, and he's the one that's continually trying to get escaped in this mobster criminal lifestyle from a young age, with no encouragement from his parents to do so. So in a way, like, he's also being like a shit that kind of, doesn't really deserve sympathy in that scenario, I think.
Really?
Yeah, but I mean, like, I feel like if you see a father beating a child on screen, you kind of have to elicit some sympathy for him. I mean, mate.
I mean, yeah, can't you kind of, I don't know, it is partly, because I feel like he wouldn't just be instantly attracted to this gangster lifestyle if he didn't have a bad home life. If he had a more supportive family, it could have turned out differently. I think that's what Scorsese was trying to put in there at the start, that he kind of came from this shit upbringing, and that's maybe why he went into this life of crime. I don't think you can just put the blame on the kid.
Oh no, I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I didn't think his childhood, the way it was presented as something that was that horrific. It's not like he was living in poverty, and it's not like, his parents hated his guts or anything. Like, he had hard parents, he had strict parents, but didn't seem anything that was, overly extreme for the time.
Yeah, I feel like whipping your kid with the belt's always extreme.
Not in the 50s, I don't think.
I mean, like, yeah, more commonplace, but still extreme, I'd say. Actually, I don't know. If we have any older viewers out there, tell us how your father punished you.
Jesus. Please don't. I'm not trying in any way lessen condone for, or in any way kind of, what am I trying to say? Like, reduce the seriousness of beating your child. How did we get to this, dude? But I'm just saying, the fact that it is obviously, as you said, way more commonplace in the 50s, generally way more accepted in society, I would have thought, doesn't, as a result of that, being in that time period, I didn't take his upbringing as being overly, horrific for him, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, but that's obviously what Scorsese's trying to get at, like, this bad family life that was encouraged in the 50s.
Yeah, as a modern audience, you can interpret
it. This life of crime. It's quite obvious.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Mainly.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm saying from that, I didn't necessarily get extra sympathy for Henry specifically. But I get what you mean from a broader perspective of the nature of society leading to that. I get what you mean.
Okay, well, I feel like the audience does get a lot of sympathy because of this, because of the bad upbringing, but yeah.
I forgot to mention Samuel L. Jackson was in this movie. I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah. I always forget that he was in this.
Dude, he got wrecked hard. Holy shit. All right. Let's reveal our scores out of 10 for Goodfellas. On a twist of events, I'll go first. I'll give the movie an 8 out of 10. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was great. And I think if I hadn't been previously exposed to stories like this and this kind of setting plenty in fiction for me personally, I would give it a higher score. And I think potentially upon watching in the future, it has the potential to go to a 9 for me. But yeah, I'll give it an 8 for now. How about you, Jen?
I'm surprised you gave it an 8 because that's what I'm going to give it. But because I don't know, through our discussion, it sounded like you were singing a lot more praise, so I thought you'd give it like a 9 or a 10.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the other way. I feel like you'd go way lower.
Yeah, I reckon. I feel like this is a pattern where I kind of like talk shit upon a film and then I kind of still give it a high score. But yeah. No, I'm giving it an 8 as well because like I said, like it had many flaws, but that's that's what kept it from those final 2 points. But still, I thought it was very good. It was pretty engaging for most of the time, even when it did lapse. It still, still kind of had me there. But 8 out of 10 for me too.
Yeah, I'm also going to give it an 8 out of 10 again, and yeah, I think it's a great movie, but I just feel like, just I like other Scorsese stuff a bit more, I guess. So yeah.
Let me quickly chuck that in a calculator and see what our average is. 8 out of 10.
Holy shit! Is that the first time all three of us have given something the same score?
I think so.
There you go. Put that in the history books.
Yes, episode 11 of Cinema Effects. Very significant.
Indeed. Absolutely. Cool. All right. Goodfellas. Done and dusted. I've seen it now, so I can tick that one off the list. That's good. For our news chat this week, there's some interesting stories to discuss. I think the most significant story this week was, it certainly surprised me, was the confirmation of the Snyder Cut is indeed coming out in 2021. It's releasing to HBO Max, which here in Australia will be tied into Foxtel. And WB is putting in $20 to $30 million into completing this version of Justice League. And apparently the cut will go for around 4 hours, which, Jesus. And,
well,
and they're considering making it a mini-series.
What do people expect from this cut? I mean, like, it's still going to be the same film with a few... I mean, I say this, but then you look at the Star Wars and you see how they're reshot. I mean, I don't know. I can't see, a different cut of this film making it, infinitely better. Like, maybe, 1 or 2 points on the scale, but, that's it,
Keep in mind, Justice League, and also for others who don't know, this isn't a typical director's cut situation. It's not an extended version of the movie we got. This is, for all intents and purposes, a completely different movie because Joss Whedon was, of course, called in 2017 to do reshoots of Justice League. And apparently 80% of the movie was reshot. So, yes. So this is, for all intents and purposes, a completely different movie with a completely different narrative that will have some scenes presumably cross over for different reasons and fit in different ways. I'm genuinely excited for this. I don't know if it's going to be good. I wouldn't even say it's necessarily that likely it's going to be good. But at the end of the day, I've always been a supporter of Zack Snyder's kind of vision for the DC universe. I love that he was committed. Say what you will, I love that he was committed to doing something different to Marvel, and I hate that starting with that 2017 Justice League, which I think is why the movie's so mediocre, is the fact that they tried to take a movie that was kind of semi-complete with Zack Snyder's version that we're now going to be getting and bring another director on to try and change the tone of it completely and to a Marvel movie, essentially. And boy, it just did not work. So that's why I'm looking forward to it. Are you guys psyched or are you guys like, yeah, nah?
You convinced me a bit there, actually, because I didn't know it was all 80% reshot and all that. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and that's how, obviously, Mustache Gate, Henry Cavill, all that came into play because, obviously, I think that kind of shows how much of the movie was reshot. He's got that mustache going on for so much of the movie, and all those were Joss Whedon reshoots. So everything with Henry Cavill's weird mustache, which I believe is actually kind of the majority of the third act, of that existing version of the movie, was never meant to be in the movie.
Wasn't it CGI'd out or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
Well, I'm kind of along the lines of Fizzy. I didn't know how much was reshot. I just thought Whedon was brought in to, finish off a few scenes. So, I mean, that kind of makes me a bit more optimistic. But still, I mean, you have a look at his other films, and, like, I think Man of Steel and BVS, like, they're good films, but they're not brilliant either. But I feel like, you know, what we're going to get with Justice League is kind of what we got with Watchmen. And, you know, Watchmen isn't really the greatest of superhero stories. Because I feel like he's going to approach it in the same way, where he kind of wants to make this superhero epic that's kind of, you know, a bit more mature. So I feel like our result is going to be more Watchmen-esque than, you know, Man of Steel.
I think it's cool that, you know, we actually next year get to, it's the same year that the Batman is releasing with Robert Pattinson. We actually get kind of a new Batman film with Ben Affleck again, you know, which is kind of weird. Zack Snyder did say that he has never seen the film that released the theatrical version of Justice League, and he was told by people who have seen it, that people that are working with him, that his version is 75% different in terms of like scenes and things and runtime. So, yeah, pretty interesting. Let's get into this Tenet trailer that I thought Jaden would have seen, but you haven't seen apparently.
No. Do you want me to watch it now?
Nah, it's all good. I mean, hey, you can if you want.
The fact that this week I also saw it as a 195-minute runtime, I feel like a 3-minute trailer, you know, and like, what's the damage you can do?
To be fair, that runtime was only reported. That's not confirmed yet. So,
is that reported? Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah. And then I saw other people replying to that who are obviously smarter than me, saying that a runtime, that runtime wouldn't fit on an IMAX, I don't know what you'd call it, you know, the whatever the hell they call the thing they put into the IMAX projector. Yeah. So it wouldn't actually be possible to have that runtime unless there was an intermission. So maybe it has an intermission. Otherwise, I don't know.
Well, I feel like Nolan's filmmaking is kind of trying to. I feel like you could say that his films emulate the, you know, I don't know, like a golden age of cinema a bit. So I wouldn't be surprised if he, you know, inserts an intermission in there.
That'd be cool. I'd like it.
Yeah.
But who did see the trailer among us? Fitzy, tell us about this trailer, because I am trying to avoid it. Jaden is apparently maybe trying to avoid it. He might watch it soon, but we'll see. How do you feel about it, Fitzy? I want to hear about this trailer. I just don't want to see it, you know?
No, it was pretty great. It's pretty crazy. It just looks like another great Nolan movie in the likes of Inception, but probably more confusing. So, do you know anything about it?
I personally know that I know who's in it, and I know it's got something to do with time, and that's it. That's all I know about it.
Yeah.
Presumably some form of time travel,
well, I think,
in some capacity.
Yeah, the trailer doesn't really tell you how it all works. I think, you know, the people who've watched the trailer know about 5% more than you, so. But,
okay, cool.
But yeah, it looks great.
What about it looks great? What kind of stood out to you about it? Was there particular shots that looked impressive, or, you know, what vibe was it giving you?
One scene kind of reminded me of the what do you call it? The scene from the freaking hell, what's it called?
Which one? Which movie?
Dark Knight Rises. The
football stadium.
Yeah.
Oh shit, dude! Anything that reminds you of that is god tier in my opinion.
But no, that looked like a cool scene, and it looks I don't know. I'm so excited that, you know, Robert Pattinson is in it, and Elizabeth Debicki, she's in the trailer a bit. I don't think we saw much of her in the teaser, but she's the Australian actress, and John David Washington. He's got some, you know, reminiscent kind of humor, Nolan humor, kind of reminiscent of Inception, I guess. But
nice.
Yeah, it looks great. It looks you know, cinematic and great.
John David Washington looks great on the poster. I'm stoked for that. But this Elizabeth Debicki, would I have seen her in anything? Because the name rings a bell, but...
Yeah, well, she was in, like, The Great Gatsby, and...
She's in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
she's the gold
like that
person.
Oh, Mantis, yes.
No,
everyone's favourite character.
No, like the gold chick, Proxima, whatever her name is. I don't know.
Oh, right.
She was in The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Cloverfield Paradox, The Night Manager. Have you seen The Night Manager? Great series.
No, it's on my watch list. Okay, so she's in shit I've heard of. Okay, cool.
I think, like, without seeing the trailer, I think I love Nolan. I think he's probably my favorite director working today, and that's because of the innovations that are involved in his films. I mean, every film he makes, there's just, it's just creation upon creation upon, like these like insane methods of, making, and like his love of like practical effects opposed to CGI. It just enhances film so much. So like, I'm really keen to see what innovations he's brought to this film. Because I mean, like, you look at the special features like, Dunkirk and Inception and Stellar. You see the way, like, the reading of the camera and the sets they design and how each, piece falls together. It's really insane. So, I mean, without having seen the trailer, I mean, like, I'm just so keen for what he has to offer, just in terms of creativeness as well.
Yeah. Well, just like with the idea of the movie, like, it feels like he could really go anywhere with it. Yeah, like he can just do whatever with his idea, really.
Well, next week we'll hopefully some of you write in about what you thought of the trailer. Go and watch it. I feel weird encouraging people to go and watch a trailer that I myself didn't watch, but I look forward to reading your responses. Tell us what you think about it. I want to hear more about it, and maybe then Jaden would have watched it. Who knows? Sticking with Tenet for a bit, this trailer did nothing to indicate that the date is changing. And so I guess in a way, like this news piece could be Tenet is still holding its date, but that's not really news. We've talked about that before. What I did want to add to this though is the fact that I did read a Deadline article, a bit of it, and they conducted kind of an analysis. I guess they did kind of a look into the box office shit and the numbers and all that, and essentially, and I guess their knowledge of executives and the way these studios run is that for WB to go ahead with the July 17th date for Tenet, they would need 80% of the world's theatres to be reopened in time. And this is in order to meet their financial requirements. They would need 80% of all theatres around the world to be reopened. And they would explicitly need New York, LA, and San Francisco to have open theatres. So I chucked that in there because that kind of answers our question from previous weeks, Jaden, about would they do limited releases for certain regions in the world and things like that, because our theatres seem to be opening soon, so would they just release it here in Australia? That seems like a no.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, then I feel like the film's definitely going to get delayed because, America is nowhere near opening stages. So if that's the requirement, then we're not going to get this film in July 17.
Well, some states have already reopened theatres, right?
What, in America?
I believe so.
Yeah, but
not the majority. I think a handful.
No, but like the virus is still rampant over there. I mean, like, it's growing every day. Like, there's no, it's not like there's, down here is a relatively calm time. I mean, like we're still getting a few cases here and there, but it's slowed down. But in America, it's not slowing down at all. So I mean, I can't imagine them opening theaters, especially LA, New York. I mean, like they're massive hotspots, with such a significant population density. There's no way that they're going to be opened.
I mean, I agree with you. I don't see them being opened either, but I was just throwing out there to be clear. I do believe some theaters are open in some states, and I don't see LA or New York opening either. But and especially if they're requirements, I don't see that happening. But I just want to throw that out there because that might contribute to the 80% number potentially. But yeah, I think if those are requirements, they're not going to be met. But we'll see. All right, what have we been watching? Jane, did you watch anything?
Yeah, I watched a few things. Kind of had a week of horror. Watched Francesca, which is this, Italian new Gaio film. So it's, essentially like it was trying to emulate the famous Italian murder films of the 70s, but it tried too hard, and it just really wasn't that good at all. Some nice colors, but like that was really it. And then I watched Silent Hill and Silent Hill Revelations, or Revelation, I think. Drop the S. Silent Hill was pretty decent, especially in terms of like sound design and setting. like they're two things that the film did really well. And I feel like in trying to, I assumed like, with that they were trying to emulate the video game atmosphere, and I think they did achieve that. Story for the first one was interesting enough, but I was talking to you boys earlier, like the dialogue in both of them is just pretty horrid. So it really, really, like, it really, really hampers the experience. Especially with Silent Hill Revelation, because it doesn't have a lot going for it as well. I mean, like, the only thing that's decent about it is the fact that, you kind of it kind of cleans up what the first one offered. But, yeah, that wasn't too great. And then I watched Manhunter, which is like the first in the series of, the Hannibal Lecter films.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That was really good. Not Silence of the Lambs good, but, I think it, I can't remember what the name of the guy that plays Lecter in Manhunter is, but like Anthony Hopkins beats him on every level. But still, like Manhunter, it still had it followed a similar story of this new crazed killer, that's kind of like tearing up the headlines, and this detective has to find out what. But it was different enough, and it was really, really good, and the way it was executed.
So is that a prequel?
Well, it was made in 1986, so, I mean, Silence of the Lambs is a sequel to it.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But then, the way the film, because I think, so it's Manhunter, Silence of the Lambs, and I think it's Hannibal is the next film, which was released in, 2001.
Mm.
But then, in 2002, yeah, they made Red Dragon, but Red Dragon's a remake of Manhunter. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But is that chronologically prior still?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Because I think the Red Dragon tagline is still, to find true evil, you have to go to the origins or whatever. So it is about going earlier.
Gotcha.
Because I think in Hannibal they still have the same character of Clarice Starling, is it her name? But it's Julianne Moore that plays instead of Jodie Foster. So,
that shit bothers me, man.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of holding off on watching it.
So there's these Hannibal films. There's kind of that Anthony Hopkins trilogy, I guess. He only does it 3 times, doesn't he?
There's also a film called Hannibal Rising. I'm not sure if he does that, if he is Hannibal in that as well.
Oh, right. Okay. Because I know Mads Mikkelsen has played Hannibal, but that was a TV show, right?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool.
Sorry. What I also want to kind of mention with Silent Hill Revelation is that 3D was part of the title, and I was just wondering, do you guys remember when films went through that weird phase of putting 3D in their title, Step Up 3D, Texas Chainsaw 3D, Dracula 3D, Jackass 3D, Saw 3D. Do you remember that? Or because it was I don't know, it was just weird,
Super weird.
The fact that they lent so heavily into 3D technology that they shot their film with the intent of people watching it with that and seeing that shit come out of them. I was like,
Yeah, that shit didn't really age well, did it?
No. Well, the thing is, 3D technology, they're still making 3D films today, which I'm honestly surprised by because I don't know anyone who still goes to them and prefers them. But, I guess if they must be making some money, so go nuts.
Well, I haven't thought about that in ages, the fact that I remember, only 5 years ago and obviously prior that, going to the theatre, you'd always get the 3D showings and the 2D showings, and there'd often be, just as many, if not more, 3D showings and shit. And now, that's not even a thing, really. I'm sure there are showings, but I certainly never have to think about if I'm selecting 2D or 3D anymore. And I did. What did you watch this week, Fitzy?
I didn't see anything besides our watch party thing last night, so I'll talk about that. Saw Rogue One, rewatched Rogue One, and yeah, I think it's definitely, I don't know, it's
bracing for impact.
It's still in the top half of my Star Wars, but I don't know, the directing is really great, but the main characters aren't that interesting to me, and the writing for them isn't that great. The kind of emotional moments between Jin and Galen don't really do anything for me, and lots of the character is getting his own spin-off series.
Diego Luna's character, Cassian.
Yeah, he doesn't really do anything for me, and but I mean, it is a visually stunning movie, but the first and second act really just kind of bore me. But the third act is really brilliant. But definitely one of the best, third acts of Star Wars in general. But I don't rate it that highly because it just doesn't invest me in the first two acts.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's still enjoyable. So yeah.
Cool. All right. I watched I've been watching more Black Sails. That's really all I've been watching. I'm into season 2. Having a great time watching Black Sails. It has my recommendation so far. Who knows where it goes? I'll keep you updated. But that's all I got of note this week. So yeah, bit of a light week for some of us. That's all right. Jaden had a fun time with Silent Hill.
I mean, yeah. First one was a fun time. Second one wasn't. But yeah.
What about Place Beyond the Pines, Zach?
Oh shit, dude! Why are you reminding me when I watched it? Am I that hopeless? I watched Place Beyond because that was like a week ago now. Yeah, watched Place Beyond the Pines. Great movie. Really enjoyed the hell out of it. I knew nothing about it. Really surprised me in a lot of different ways, as I'm sure anyone who's seen the movie can understand. I think the story had a lot of heart, and a lot of depth, and a lot of interesting elements. So I highly recommend that movie. It was awesome.
Yeah, I remember when I was watching it, like the first act was really exciting, but like I feel like it kind of taken out in the second. But then when whatever happened in the third act and kind of rounds around, it comes around. It was phenomenal. I really, really loved it from that point on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great
film.
I know exactly what you mean when you're saying in the second act it kind of loses a little bit. You're like, wait, what? Like, what's happening? Anyway, I won't say anymore. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean when you say that. It feels like it loses momentum for a bit, but then you kind of, when it comes back around, you're like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Mm.
Let's get into our listener-submitted comments. First of all, Michael wrote into us about last week's question, which was, what the hell was it? Favorite band movies.
No.
Yes.
Sorry. Right. The week before.
The question. Oh gosh, this shit's good. The question that we got. You know what I mean. The questions that we read the answers for last week, not this week's question yet. But anyway.
Yep.
Holy shit, we're running at like 3 questions at a time right now in this very second. Michael wrote into us about what his favourite band movie was. He said, all the TMNT live action movies, absolutely garbage production and everything, but fuck me, they are some rad turtles. I respect that answer. I respect it a lot. You can't go wrong with the Ninja Turtles,
Oh, have you guys seen the 90s ones, I guess? I think they are. Have you seen those live action ones?
I think I've seen the first one of those, I think.
Yeah, because those are bangers as well. Because I'm not sure if he's referring to those ones or if he's referring to the newer ones, but
he says all the live TMNT live action movies.
Yeah.
So he's including the CG and the weird costumes.
Dude, TMNT 2, Secret of the Ooze, or whatever it was called. Banger.
That's a great name. Secret of the Ooze. Love it. But this week's real question that we asked last week, holy shit, dude. What a confusing segment name. The question that we asked last week we're answering this week, but it isn't the question we asked this week, we're answering that next week. The question was what your favourite film setting is. Paul wrote into us and said, the pod race scene saves Phantom Menace. In fact, if you go through the Star Wars collection, there are some fantastic pursuits in every movie. Also, if I can have another one, it would be Hogwarts. Who wouldn't want to go to school there? That is a top-tier answer, Hogwarts. Absolutely. And I've grown to appreciate the pod race scene a little bit more than I don't love it, but I like it. I think it's okay. I think it's enjoyable, aspects of it. Michael wrote into us again, answering this week's question. He said, Kmart in Grown Ups 2, absolutely surreal use of setting. I love these comments. I love them so much. I love that we do this segment. Oh, my God. I've always wanted a film, an entire film to take place in Kmart, so hopefully Michael and I's dream can come true there one day. Luke wrote in and said, favourite film setting has got to be the Mos Eisley Cantina, because as we all know, you will never find a worse wretched hive of scum and villainy, a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. I botched the most famous Star Wars quote. How about that? Plus, that theme can be played for hours on repeat. Hell yeah, it can. It's my ringtone. I love it. Great answer. Some solid answers this week. We're ranging from the iconic, from Mos Eisley to Kmart. What have you guys got? What's some of your favourite sets?
I'm going to go with Middle Earth, I think. From Star Wars, not from Lord of the Rings. Yeah, it's just such a beautiful and detailed world. Apparently, there's like 1,000 different little musical leitmotifs for there's a little musical theme for like each place, even like specific places within places. So it's a musical world as well. But
it's a whole new world.
But yeah, it's just such a great, wonderful fantasy world. What about you, Jaden?
When we asked this question last week, I thought I had a pretty clear answer, but then I kind of thought about it more, and I was like, oh, maybe not. I think any use of 1930s, 1950s New York, I think is brilliant, because it's such a gorgeous setting, and it's so ideal and romanticized, and I love it. So it's used in The Great Gatsby, and also in Killer's Kiss, which I mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago. I think they're so brilliant. But I also love there's the opening scene of a film called A Touch of Evil. It takes place in this Mexican American border town, and that opening scene is just phenomenal as well. So they're kind of my answers there.
I wrote down Hogwarts too, because how can you go wrong with that answer? And unfortunately, Fitzy kind of huffed on my answer. I was going with Lord of the Rings, but I went a bit more specific than him. I wrote The Shire, because goddamn Hobbiton and the themes associated with it. Every time, it's just gorgeous. God, what a place, I've got to head down to New Zealand and check it out, And I also acknowledge Hoth from The Empire Strikes Back, because some of my favorite sequences in any film ever and take place there, and that the whole combat with the AT-AT walkers and everything in the first act I just love so much. Some of my favorite visuals, I think, in movies generally, so shout out to Hoth as well.
I feel like I need to acknowledge like another setting I feel like I need to kind of say I love is just anything that's drenched in neon colors. I love. I think on especially on film, it comes across so well. It's or the trailer park or caravan park, whatever it is in the Strangers Pray at Night. It's such a brilliant setting as well, because it's just a neon drenched hell place, and it's just great.
I agree with you. Neon is dope, man. All right, well, that's all we got. Thanks everyone for tuning into Cinema Effect for another week. We appreciate your time as always. Fitzy, you know the drill.
Next week's movie is we're continuing with our Matrix series. We're doing the Matrix Reloaded, Matrix 2, and that is on Stan, Netflix, Foxtel, and if you don't have any of those, YouTube and Google Play. So there's really no excuse this time, guys. What are you doing?
It's on everything. Exactly. I'm looking forward to that one. I don't know what I'm going to think of it, to be honest. I've seen it before, but don't really remember it that well. I'm looking forward one week, Fitzy, to where I ask you what the next week's movie is and you get it wrong. It'll happen one day, and I'm looking forward to that.
Wow, okay. Good friend you are.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Fitzy Jane, thank you for your time this week, as always.
Cheers.
No worries.
All right, we'll see you all next week. Have a great rest of your week, and goodbye.